I'll do. Got an interesting story here about third world style nepotism happening in our judicial system. And this really isn't any surprise to myself personally. When you do allow mass immigration into a country on the scale that we are having, it is obviously going to be that people are just going to continue as they left off from their home country. That includes the people who may have been born here too, in my opinion. Because when you have such large quantities of people living together in an area, they are then going to continue their traditions, their upbringing, and their cultural practices that were practiced in the mother country. For me, culture is a very, very deep thing. You can't just simply move one person from one country to another and expect them to simply change. It takes many, many generations, in my personal opinion, for families to become fully assimilated, and that's if they only have limited immigration. With the scale that we have, I don't think it's possible, personally, and I think we're starting to see this, as you will see now. Immigration judge teamed up with crooked lawyers to fleece taxpayer out of 1.8 million in false legal aid claims over case of Indian restaurants employing illegal workers. Court hears. Now, I've said before, most recently in my previous video, that the immigration system is being fleeced by activists. It is a money-making machine, and that's what it is. This whole asylum process, the putting up appeals and challenging court decisions, all of that, it's just money-making. Absolute money-making machine. And here, even the judges are in on it, really, when we're looking at it. So, Rasib Gaffer, 54, denies conspiracy to commit fraud with 6 others. He allegedly raked in more than £140,000 when he did not even act as an advocate in the case at Bournemouth Crown Court. Interesting. A judge teamed up with a gang of crooked lawyers to fleece the taxpayer out of nearly £2 million in false legal aid claims, a court heard. I mean, I'm absolutely not surprised by this, by the way, because in places like India and Pakistan, Bangladesh, them sort of countries, it's par for the course there. You know, it's absolutely expected. Corruption, when you go to them sort of countries, they will offer you bribes if you're going to do business with them. Say you've got an engineering firm and you're bidding for contract work. They will bribe you or expect bribes depending on who's doing the bidding. And if you don't engage in the bribes, they will think that you're up to something. They will look at you with suspicion for not taking the bribe. It is a totally different world. And an easy way for people to understand this in the West, if you think I'm just being some sort of bigot or a racist, look at football, European football. When you look at Southern European teams compared to Northern European teams and the antics that they get up to, a team from Italy or Spain will not think twice about taking a dive to get a free penalty, whereas Northern European teams look down on that sort of behaviour as being disgusting and underhanded and an abuse of the rules. And this is the difference in psychology and thinking and cultural differences. And the further away you get from Northern Europe, the more culture changes, and what becomes acceptable and unacceptable also changes. And that includes things like bribes and corruption. In these sorts of countries, the way they view it is, if you can get away with it, that's fine. The crime is in getting caught. That is the mindset in places like where these individuals come from. And when you have so many people moving to the UK from these countries, that mindset and way of thinking and that type of culture can permeate and carry on, because all you've done is transplanted the culture from one area to another. Some may call that colonisation, or call them colonies in foreign countries of people, even though they may be dispersed into wider society. They aren't integrating. He allegedly raked him all the... Right, so I've read that. 140,000 even though he denied as advocate in the Bournemouth Crown Court, which involved Indian restaurants employing illegal immigrants. What a surprise! The food industry engaging in employing illegal people. That is something that I would not have expected to hear. If you can't tell, I'm being sarcastic. Gaffer, a qualified barrister and part-time immigration judge. How does that even work? To me, that sounds like a conflict of interest. Surely you should either be a judge or a barrister. You shouldn't, in my opinion, I don't think you should really be doing both jobs. But what do I know? I'm just a pleb. I'm just a knuckle-dragging crayon muncher, you know. Who knows? Part-time immigration judge denies conspiracy to commit fraud by false representation with 6 others, including a fellow barrister, solicitor, clerk and cost draftsman. Paul Sharkey, prosecuting, explains that Gaffer's wife, solicitor Karina Maciel, 51, who has been found unfit to stand trial due to medical problems. To me, although I don't know the ins and outs of that, I've got a sneaking suspicion that the law on standing trial for medical reasons may be getting manipulated there, especially if these people are willing to engage in multi-million-pound fraud involving illegal migration. I'm sure that engaging in fraudulent medical conditions or playing on them for legal advantage is not beyond their capabilities. Now, that is speculation. I've no evidence to back that up, and these people aren't guilty yet, so I could be completely wrong. I must be very, very clear about that. But I don't think this case, especially with this man being an acting judge and a barrister, would be going ahead if they weren't certain that they were guilty. I've got a very, very sneaky suspicion that these people are going to be found very, very guilty. Mr. Sharkey told jurors at Southwark Crown Court the single count on the indictment, conspiracy to commit fraud, was by false representation, arises out of what the prosecution alleges were 4 fraudulent claims for payment of substantial amounts of public money following one set of criminal proceedings that took place at Bournemouth Crown Court. The fraudulent claims were in part successful. Of the total of over 1.8 million that was claimed, a sum of £470,000 was paid out. The claims related to the legal costs of 4 of the defendants in the proceedings. It was because the 4 defendants were acquitted that it was possible for them to apply for legal costs for defending themselves and for those costs to be paid by the state. The defendant, Rasib Gaffer, is a barrister and was said to have acted as the advocate for one of the defendants in that case. He received sums totalling over £140,000 from solicitors instructed to represent 2 of the 4 defendants. Now, I don't know about this, but with my experience going through the family court, the money involved is insane. Now, not this insane, but how these people are racking up £140,000 in costs is beyond me. And it's just crazy. And I genuinely believe half the time they're just making these figures up. They're just writing it down and seeing what they can get away with. Half of these barristers, I really do think that, I think they're just making it up as they get. Well, they are, because it's their fees. They're essentially running their own businesses, so they are just saying, I've done 2 hours work today. That's £50,000. There's probably a little bit more in it than that, but it's just crazy money, isn't it? The prosecution says that a lot of the work claimed for had not been done at all. It had not been done, and the costs had not been incurred. The prosecutor said it was likely the reason Gaffer and 6 others hit upon the plan to submit false claims was that, as people who were familiar with the criminal justice system, with the conduct of criminal trials, and they knew that the deal meant 4 of the defendants in the Bournemouth case would be acquitted. Right. So what that basically means is they would have hedged their bets on these 4. They probably knew the cases very, very intimately, and they probably, through their experience of working in the system, would have gone, yeah, these cases are going to get passed, so what we will do is we will give you bills for work that we haven't done, and then you can submit those bills as part of your fees, and because you're going to win the case, you don't have to find that money to give to us. The state will give it to us. Whereas if there was, say, a 50-50 chance of losing and they lost, in theory, or they may actually have had to have paid the money because they've had a bill put through to them, and then somebody at the court may have started going, why have you put this bill through, but you've not now transferred money to those people, because they need paying either way, whether you win or lose. So that is does sound like what I was saying before, where they just where barristers do just make up fees. And that's what this is what they've exactly done here. They've just made up a number, put it on a piece of paper, said, right, put that in. I'm not accusing barristers of just plucking numbers out of thin air either way, but that is how it appears from my layman's point of view, just to be very clear on that. That means that they could put forward as genuine private clients that would create the opportunity to submit false and fraudulent claims to the NTT, National Taxing Team, seeking payment for work done on a private basis that was not actually done at all, or certainly not to the extent stated in the claims. Mr. Sharkey said solicitors Azar Khan, 52, and Joseph Amawaya Kramer, 72, along with barrister clerk Ghazi Khan, 52, have already been convicted of their involvement in the conspiracy. Right, so we've clearly got multiple professionals here who have already been caught, and really this is just rubber stamping the the person who's probably the kingpin of this all, by the sounds of it, if he's a judge. And I wouldn't be surprised if there's even more people involved behind the scenes, but they're just not capable of proving it. He explained that the case at Bournemouth Crown Court in 2011 concerned 4 brothers, a partnership and a company. He said all 6 were prosecuted in connection with employing staff at 2 restaurants who, it was said, were unlawfully present in the UK in breach of this country's immigration laws. See, it should just be automatic deportation. If you're found to be an illegal immigrant, it should be do not pass go, do not collect £200, no questions asked. You're on a plane, bye-bye, go. And if you come back to the country, you're getting flogged. Like, if we catch you in the country again, you're getting flogged and then deported. That is, in my opinion, the sort of steps that we need to take to deal with this. We've got to become incredibly harsh on these individuals, because at the moment they're just laughing in our faces and taking our money, like literally stealing money from the government. That's our taxes that they're taking from us there. We go to work, we pay our taxes, and then these people just take it off us and laugh while they're doing it. Look at these idiots. What are they going to do? Oh, we'll go to prison for a year, but so what? We've got all this money. We'll send it back to wherever so they can't touch it. It's gone now. That money's gone. And they're laughing. They're laughing in our faces. I mean, one of them, 72, he'll be retired as well. So he's got his pension and that coming in. You know, so it's not like you can even deny him working anymore because he's got his pension and that coming in. So he's just greed, pure greed. There's no need for it. You know, bringing all the cousins and the family members in. Oh, I've got this plan. Yeah, there's tribalism. And I've mentioned that in previous videos. Nepotism, big problem in these countries like India and Pakistan and that, and Africa. Nepotism is a huge problem. And this is what we're starting to see now. I did a story about 2 months ago. What I think is a clear example of nepotism there was a female Muslim police officer, and she basically took her husband's cousin or something relation. He was on a dangerous list, a list of men who were a threat to women, and I believe, if I remember correctly, she took him off the list, and she tried denying that she'd done nothing wrong. And anyway, she went to an employment tribunal, and the man running the employment tribunal, the head of that, he was a Muslim, and rather than sacking her, which I think should have been done because it was gross misconduct, he basically let her off with a warning, and she's carrying on working. You know, as a police officer doing that. That is like unbelievable level of corruption going on. But again, we see it, in my opinion, that's nepotism. Tribal nepotism. At the end of the case, the Crown Court was informed that these 4 defendants were privately paying clients and weren't funded by any legal aid, and the Crown Court was asked to grant a DCO, defendant's cost order, in favour of each. The DCO entitled their solicitors to submit claims that the 4 should be compensated for the legal costs they had incurred. It is the prosecution case that in respect of the 4 separate but also connected claims, false representations were made as to the work said to have been done. It is doubtful that these 4 defendants were private clients at all, in the sense that there is no evidence that either of the 2 brothers, the partnership, well, there you go, I said that, didn't I? Brothers. The partnership or the company had paid or agreed to pay for their own legal costs. Indeed, the 2 brothers who were acquitted had in fact been granted legal aid, so the state paying for their legal representation, but requests were made to have their legal aid orders withdrawn on the basis that they were going to be paying private funds. Mr. Sharkey told the court Gaffer submitted a £184,000 claim for 350 hours work for one of the defendants in the case, when there is no evidence he said that he actually appeared in court as an advocate for any of the defendants, still less the one he claimed to have been the advocate for. You see, and this is something else that really annoys me. These people are putting these claims in for, and you could argue that this is civil cases. This isn't really criminal court. There's no jury standing trial or anything. Now, when I went to the family court, or when I've been going to the financial tribunal against child maintenance, not one single penny can I claim back for that. Not one. And I've literally done nothing wrong. And I have fully exonerated my name in all cases. And I'm still pursuing child maintenance now at my own cost. I do not get a single penny for that. And yet these people here are claiming hundreds and hundreds of thousands of pounds in legal aid. You tell me how that's fair. I'm actually being persecuted by child maintenance to a degree that the post office were persecuting the postmasters. And I'm not over-egging the pudding. I literally mean that. They were trying to bankrupt me based on zero evidence. Their own intuition, basically, because they felt like it. And I'm only lucky because, unlike with the postmasters, where the post office were dealing with the prosecutions outside of the legal system, so to speak, in a sort of quasi sense, at least with child maintenance, I've been able to take it through the regular court system. So when they were originally pursuing me for vast sums of money, I'm talking money that would have made me lose my home and they would have bankrupted me. I at least paused that. They were trying to send bailiffs around to my house while I was waiting to go to court. You know, like legally they can't do that. They have to wait until the court's made a decision, because the child maintenance, in theory, before you go to court, could be wrong, which I proved in court that they were wrong. But they tried sending bailiffs around to my house. This is the sort of intimidation tactics that they were engaging in. Absolutely ruthless, awful people. Anyway, I was getting off. I was just trying to say more about the legal aid, to be honest with you. You know, I'm having to fight all this on my own. But these people raking money in here, millions of pounds given to them for entering the country illegally as well. And that's the difference. I've done nothing wrong. I go to work. I've got to fund everything myself. These people enter the country illegally and engage in fraud and get loads of money. Where is the actual justice in that? As I always say, don't listen to what they say, look at what they do. And what they're doing is showing us that they hate us, the people of this country, in my opinion. As with others involved, the work he claimed to have carried out was backdated to a time he had not represented the client. He received payments to a total of £140,000 from one of the firms involved in the case, out of public funds they had received from representing one of the private defendants. He added that there was no doubt that a conspiracy to commit fraud existed, since 3 of Gaffer's alleged co-conspirators had already been found guilty of it, but that it was for the jury to determine whether Gaffer was part. Well, that is my mistake. This is a criminal case. I did not realise that there was juries involved. I'm going to fully eat my words there, but still, why the heck should I not be getting funding for what I'm going through when I have done nothing wrong and I've been falsely hounded by child maintenance? And yet these people have been claiming all this money when they've entered the country illegally. Again, how is that right? That is just wrong, isn't it? Absolutely sickening. Same with child maintenance. I'm not going to go into any details, but going to the family court to do with my children. Every claim that was made to me, I've been through it multiple times, through the family courts twice. I've had 3 separate CAFCAS officers. All 3 of them have said I'm an excellent father. I've done nothing wrong. I've spent I've spent over £20,000, nearly £30,000 I've spent on legal fees with that. I don't get a penny of that back either. Not from anybody, either from my ex-wife or from the family courts, because it's a civil case and I've done literally nothing wrong. And again, that's come out of my pocket. Maddening. Absolutely maddening. Gaffer of South Woodsford, East London, denies 1 count of conspiracy to defraud by false representation to HMC TS between 11th September 2011 and 3rd of October 2012 by submitting claims for defence legal costs arising out of criminal proceedings of Regina vs Tal Mahal 2 Pool Limited, which he knew were untrue or misleading, in that the cost claims, including disbursements, were not actually incurred in proceedings. The trial continues. So I'm going to leave it there. That was quite an exciting story. Now, I know that it's saying that this is like 2011. This story is very recent, yesterday, in fact, 10th of January 2024. Published 10th of January, and then it was even updated within a minute of it being published on the 10th of January. So this is a very, very recent story. So although this is backdated a lot, this has obviously been going on. It must be a very, very complicated case to do with the finances. I still don't understand why it's taken 10 years. That, to me, seems very, very excessive. But I hope you've all found that interesting. That sort of stuff really, really, really grates me because of my own personal experience with the courts and the massive amounts of... Although, compared to that, I mean, you're talking a £2 million, mine say, I don't know, £30,000 or whatever I've spent in total on legal fees. You know, and like with the postmasters, where they've gone obviously up against the post office, they've had to use massive amounts of their money, and most of them have ended up with nothing. You know, they were getting all that compensation, and it's been in the news that most of them had to sell their houses and things, you know. And it's been the same. I was very close to having to do that myself, you know, when I've done literally nothing wrong. But yeah, you get these people here, and how many cases happen with these illegal migrants where they're getting awarded all this money, but they're walking away with it as well because they're not getting found out. And yet, I'm a good, solid, hard-working person. I pay my tax. I've been in the military. I've served. I've been on railway engineering. The work I've done has prevented trains from crashing. And what thanks do I get? I get child maintenance trying to bankrupt me, and I've got to go through the courts multiple times to see my kids. Pay tens of thousands of pounds, and I don't get a single penny back for any of it. All my savings burnt up. It's worth it, obviously, for my kids, but my goodness, it doesn't half sting when I see stories like that. And I just think, my goodness, what's happening to our country? We are being taken for a laugh. It's just sickening. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there. I've obviously ranted on a little bit with that. It's just disgusting, isn't it? Anyway, if you found that informative, interesting, or it's got your goat up like it has done with me, please like, subscribe, put a comment below. I do like reading people's comments and that. I do try to reply to as many as I can. Anyway, take care now. Goodbye. Thank you.